Reeling from the shock of what he had heard, the journalist returned to his hotel to tell his wife what had happened.
I literally took my wife into a closet and closed the door and told her what had happened. It was at once apparent that she thought I had taken leave of my senses, my wits, and I did not believe my own words as I told her what had happened. What's more, I told her that I had the uneasy suspicion that what the Duke of Windsor really wanted was for me to convey these almost treasonable sentiments to President Roosevelt.
On his return to the United States, Ousler immediately arranged to see the president.
That was an absolutely remarkable meeting. Undoubtedly the most remarkable that my father ever had with the president. And Fulton, he said, nothing can surprise me these days. Nothing will seem too fantastic. Why, do you know, he went on earnestly, but with a very cunning, cousining smile, why, do you know that I am amazed to find that some of the greatest people in the British Empire, men of the so-called upper classes, men of the highest rank, secretly want to appease Hitler and stop the war. End quote. My father wrote then, I gasped. It was perfectly apparent that agents of the colonial secretary had been listening to what the Duke had said.
Ousler's interview with Edward was eventually published in the American magazine Liberty in March 1941. Although the article was heavily censored, Edward was still quoted as predicting a new world order in Europe imposed by Germany. His comments caused widespread outrage within the British establishment. Although Churchill had been aware of the interview for months, it was only now that he angrily rebuked Edward.
The language, whatever was meant, will certainly be interpreted as defeatist and pro-Nazi, and by implication approving of isolationism to keep America out of the war.
Any lingering hopes that Edward might have had of stopping the war was smashed completely in December 1941, when the Japanese attacked the American fleet in Pearl Harbor.
I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
Four days later, America joined the Allies against Germany. Edward's plans to prevent their intervention lay in ruins. But worse was yet to come for the couple. Their old friend, Axel Wenner-Gren, was now listed as a wanted man by the FBI and was forced to flee the Bahamas for Mexico. Despite this, Edward and the Duchess sent him a message of support.
We are so sorry to hear you are not returning, but hope you will have a pleasant time in Mexico. Wallace and Edward Windsor.
In Mexico, the FBI put Axel Wenner-Gren under surveillance. They not only suspected him of spying for the Nazis, but also of running an illegal currency operation through his bank there. Leif Leifland has studied the personal diaries of Wenner-Gren and written a biography of the Swedish millionaire.
Well, there was a standing instruction from Washington to the American ambassador, an embassy in Mexico City, to follow Axel Wenner-Gren's steps very closely. In the embassy, there was a FBI organization, and they had, through some agreement with the Mexican government, access to all information, to all Axel Wennergren's financial transactions in Mexico City. So if Axel Wennergren went to the bank and deposited $10, the FBI agents at the American embassy in Mexico City would know it the following day.
Again, Edward was to become implicated, this time in Wennergren's illegal financial transactions. During the war, any exchange of more than £10 into a foreign currency was regarded as a serious economic crime. Edward seems to have ignored this. His currency speculation is reported in FBI files at the time. One report was sent in June 1942.
It is understood that deposits of $2.5 million were made in the Bahamas at the express request and in part for the benefit of the Duke of Windsor.
Further confirmation of Edward's involvement comes from an old acquaintance of the Duke and Duchess, Alfred de Marigny. He frequently socialized with both Edward and Wennergren and noted the high regard in which Edward held the Swedish millionaire.
Oh, the Duke was very impressed. He was always very impressed by people who were successful or who had money. He was certainly involved because he was always with them. And all the money that he was paid in pounds, and he would transfer them into dollars out of the country. All exchange of money was illegal. You could not change dollars into pounds or pounds into dollars. But especially into pounds, that was the end of it. If you were going to take pounds and make dollars out of that, they put you in jail. It was a crime.
And so we say farewell to Dixie and travel to the Bahamas to see the Duke and Duchess of Windsor refereeing a charity golf match.
The full story of the Duke's currency fiddling while governor of the Bahamas has been covered up. It was too serious a crime in wartime for the royal family to be smeared with this sort of scandal. News reports preferred to stick to Edward's appearances at charity golf matches.
Thanks, Governor.
Edward was always obsessed with money, and I think that when he abdicated, it made him feel very insecure, although he was, in actual fact, a very rich man and had saved a great deal of money when he was Prince of Wales, something like £1 million, which in today's terms is a great deal of money. He went on feeling insecure, and he felt very bitter against his brother for not giving him enough money.